Good morning. We are not going to sit down. Welcome all. It's a great pleasure to be here at FEBRABAN Tech in this space with so many people that work with innovation to talk about innovation. My name is Daniela Teixeira. I'm leader of innovation in FENASBAC, and I lead our innovation plan and regulators and connect market. And it would be very nice to talk about what we've been doing with our program. Thank you. It's a great honor to be here with a big partner, FENASBAC, represented by Dani. First of all, thank you for being here. We will show you a little bit of why sustainability is connected to the central bank mandate, a little of the evolution of this subject, just so you have an idea of our perspective from when the bank began to do this and how we got together with the financial innovation and technological. And then we'll go in depth to this financial laboratory and technology laboratory with a number of initiatives. And then we connect all the deliveries that we can have for COP30, the UN meeting that will happen in Belém to talk about climate change. Talking a little bit of the strategic pillars of Brazil Central Bank. What's the mission? Why does it exist? Our focus is to certify the stability of the currency so that the Brazil's real continue with the stability and power and not have that instability that we used to have once upon a time, and make sure that the currency is solid, resilient, and trustworthy. And why are you talking about sustainability at the central bank? Why that is not that being discussed by the environment ministry? It's important. We have a group with each country has a central bank, and we are a group, NGFS, with all 130 countries' central banks, so that we can understand this subject. And the understanding of the central bank, aligned with this international discussion, is that the environmental and climate factors are extremely important for risk management, and if not analyzed, can be associated to a systemic crisis. I'll give you an example, and you can see there in the pillar that the strategic agenda of the bank talks about inclusion, competitiveness, and transparency. We'll talk a little bit about the keynote presentation of FEBRABAN. It's a joint work with the Society of National Financial Service to give access in a competitive and transparent way, and also to be based on the pillars of financial education so that society can know how to use the system in their favor, and sustainability in the excellency of structures. For example, I would remember just one important information. In 2001, 2021 and 2022, before the great flood in the Rio Grande do Sul, and no one can let me lie how large the damage was, we had a big drought in the south of the country. And out of the drought, 4 states were affected. And because of it, we had an impact on our energy matrix because we are so heavily based on hydropower. And when we have a lack of water, we have to activate thermoelectrical energy. And when that happens, the energy increases in cost. And this impacts everyone, at home and at companies, and prices go up. And the impact of this one increase in energy measured by the central bank, it was 0.67 percentage points. So we had an inflation impact related to the drought and the increase in energy price. In the same period, we had a harvest fail. and loss of 45 billion reais, and only 45% was insured. And part of that was covered by the public funding, by the pro-agro system. And that amount went twice as much the loss of the historical amount of money used by Proagro. So 10 billion reais were paid out because of the drought. So we had a significant drought in Manaus, 2023, that impacted the whole logistical process because we depend on the rivers. We didn't have AC in São Paulo, so the price increases. So we have inflation pressure to the free trade zone in Manaus. So we have more than 300 municipalities that were affected by the flood in Rio Grande do Sul. This is all is relevant because environmental factors have impact in the economy and generate financial risk. So the credit portfolio is exposed to all of this. And this is why, as we are all here, mobilized in an agenda for innovation, competitiveness, and technology, and what's relevant for a solid financial sector, we know that we understand that we have to foster innovation for sustainability and efficacy. So we can mitigate risks, so reduce the probability of and severity of the events, and adapt to any possible event. So we have some examples of what we've done so far, and we can see their plan is not new, and it begins on the financial systems. So in 95, 5 banks signed the Green Protocol, which was a commitment that signed that these banks had planned to act according to this agenda. So in 2008, we are already working about credit and the Amazon biome. And then we had the discussion on low carbon, the first resolution of the National Monetary Board directing the financial system and demanding a social, environmental, and climate responsibility from 2014. The financial system issued the first green title and the gathering of resources in 2015. We have regulatory evolutions along the way, with a highlight in 2019. Before that, 2015, we monitored the impact of the drought in the national financial system, and we published those impacts. 2019, the disaster of the breakage of the dam. 2020 to 2020 begins to be part of the pillars of this agenda for the central bank, and you can see the increase in actions as time goes by. So we have the rural credit. So I already mentioned how impacting agricultural culture is. So agriculture is 25% of the GDP and jobs and actions, and 70% is the deforestation is the issuing of greenhouse gases in the country. And differently from other countries, with the control is based on the energy, because they are use fossil fuel. Our control is focused. Our main issue is the deforestation control. And then we can see the Rural Credit Bureau with their resolutions from 2021 focused on rural credit directed and that is sustainable, with tools to integrate database and other governmental organization, so that we can have people to adhere to it. And we had some advancements regarding normatives and regulations when we talk about sustainability. Also, the international standards like ISSB. And we had a new resolution at the end of 2024 and some tests that were published in our financial stability report, measuring in our systems how exposed we are to flooding and extreme drought, and the transition risk. So what's the transition risk? The change of economical system. We are in the transition, and we search sectors that have less greenhouse gases emissions. And how is the national environment regarding this? So the stability for financial market, and you can see the evolution, and finally, the public consultation opened this year. And how all of this is connected. And Danny will start talking about the lift. How is this connected to financial technology? And in 2019, they began to integrate, to optimize the supervision of the social, environmental, and climate responsibility in the financial organizations. And 23 and 24, we have an initiative of large language models, the great scale models using nature processing language to evaluate the organization's reports from financial institutions and analyze with the technological support the risk exposure and mitigation of our agenda. And in 2021, we see the sustainability as a pillar in Lift Lab, and dovetailing in this agenda on what's being said. How do we use the agenda for the bank and economy to have an open
so that we can build the improvements we can see within the domestic financial system? Here we have a little bit of lift, and I think it's interesting to step back and see how is the open innovation agenda appeared inside the central bank. If we look at 2008, when there was a global financial crisis, we saw in Europe and in other countries a movement for the appearance of fintechs. So to bring the service to the other institutions when the risks were assuming a lot of risk. And we saw this movement growing, consolidating, and they came to Brazil as of 2012. And this movement was strengthened in 2016. The FCA is with the UK monetary entity launched an open innovation lab where innovators could go there and use the database and use the proof of concept for their technological products. And so we had the technology department of the central bank goes to the UK and see in this ecosystem and comes to Brazil with an idea of what could be something similar that could be done here in Brazil to be on an equal footing and bring these people to tell them what they could do without wearing the hat of regulators. And the response to that was getting together with FENASBAC. We already had an agreement with the central bank. We could be in this mid-ground, so the innovator and the regulator to sit down and discuss on the same table. In 2018, the Lift Lab emerged, and since then, this program has become an ecosystem. So today we are talking about 4 acceleration programs: Lift Lab, prototyping to bring a safe environment to discuss technology, regulation, new business models, on a pre-operational basis, looking at the prototype lift learning that's going to look at an even lower maturity where the technology is emerging at the universities and how we can build this bridge between research and practical. Lift data and lift challenge, which are special editions of Lift Lab, and Lift Data is for the use of database, and Lift Challenge as a specific challenge with a higher maturity level, looking at that use cases and how they can be applied in the economy. How do we return everything that's being created to society? So we have events, Lift Day, where we bring together everything that was learned and built in these programs, and we present to the market Lift Talks that are lives, where you have central bank regulator, experts to discuss relevant topics, and papers, which is our technical journal that has more details of what has been developed in our programs. So, the general view of the level of maturity of projects. And here we are able to looking at the entire innovation journey even before it was launched in the marketplace. And this is very interesting because from the market perspective, you understand better the regulation before placing it on the market. We know that the financial market is not very understanding about that. On the central bank side, we can understand where the market wants to go and how the regulator can help in fostering and creating a regulation that does not prevent innovation, but to mitigate the risks involved. And now showing how we can tread this journey related to projects. In general, any person can send a project that they think it makes sense for the financial system, and the selected project is developed for some months, and we sit down on the same virtual table with the central bank experts, technological partners. And at the end of the process, the results are shown to society. And I think it's interesting to talk about how taking this inspiration from outside, we are able to return and acquire an external recognition. Since 2019, the first cycle of the Lift Learning, it was considered the most innovative initiative in the world, and we won other prizes that illustrate that this safe space is not common to happen. A place where everybody knows that they are there to build together. And this is quite interesting, and the extent to which it has influence in the development of the ecosystem. We do this in the Lift Lab with technological partners, and many of the companies that are here help and put these projects in place and what can be developed. And we have 7 editions of Lift Lab, over 70 projects developed. The majority of them are operational. 30% have received investments in the marketplace. And we see a consolidation and the maturation of the program itself. And today, many things we've seen, and now we are going to see what is in the front end in new projects that we can bring in to cooperate and at a greater depth. And it's important to highlight we are growing in terms of selection of projects. And then if you see the number of submissions is growing, we have many projects submitted, but now we have a more selective selection of the programs that are entered. And about ecosystem, we have over 100 projects. The other ones are more recent, each one in its own space. And we have had a good compliance and a lot of impact in the financial sector. Here is a comparison. And the enrollments, they have the moment depends on the year. That can be more or less innovator. But apart from that, the sustainability that enters in the BC hash is the formalization to the market that the central bank was analyzing this topic, and then the demand starts appearing. And the projects, the startups that are looking at this, they come to the lift, and this has grown. So the representativeness, this has been growing, and we see a little bit of that. I separated the main topics that were analyzed in each year of the lift. And if you pay attention, there were many things that were said in other panels, and they have been talked about in the other panels. The instantaneous payment, or PIX, since 2019. We look to open finances 2019 with a lot of focus, and it's interesting to see that these discussions take place in a moment where the central bank is looking at this technological agenda, and the discussions become inputs for the projects that are developed in-house. A lot of the open finance, how it was structured, was discussing lift, the PICs also. There's a lot of the project 2 years ago, the GFC, and now this has become a functionality. And a lot of discussion has been fostered. And in the last 2 years, we see the agenda of sustainability inside the lift. Last year, we had 2 projects that out of 5 that were accelerated and were focused on sustainability. Here, just to give you an idea of the impacts. I can be an individual that have an idea. I take to lift, this can be accelerated, and then I can have a startup. Or the project can be Caixa and Bank of Brazil, and that have a project that are in the prototyping. And if I see a value of bringing it to lift and talk to the regulators, I believe firmly that this work developed in 7, 8 years has totally changed the innovation, the financial innovation in Brazil. And we have some figures that can showcase. We have a dashboard that you can access through this QR code. And then as of last year, we had the opportunity to support the central bank in the G20 agenda. We had the tech sprint last year. And since then, we see an opportunity to continue the sustainability agenda inside a new program that is the LIFT data. It's not a specific program for sustainability, but we also included it. And how can we do to foster the use of public database to solve technological problems? In the COP after this year, and so it has this program of sustainability and with its own challenge. It's wonderful to take upon what Dani said. As the lift take place, and we monitor the evolution that happens here and outside. In 2023, the United Arab Central Bank, they were working for COP 28. They did their tech sprint, COP 28 tech sprint. In parallel, we at Brex, we doing the benchmarking for several issues. Among them, a subgroup that I was involved in for sustainability issues. How the infrastructure of the DREX could be used to maximize sustainable tokenized assets. And nobody wants to invent a jabuticaba, a typical Brazilian fruit. Talk to the BIS, the Bank of International Supplements. They said, come here. I'm going to introduce to UAE the tax break is focused on sustainability. I was there as part of the jurors, IoT for parametric insurance, to be able to measure things before the disaster and to release funds for agro, the satellite resource. In 2023, we were analyzing global solutions within the sphere of the COP28 tax brain. But Brazil was the president of the G20 last year in partnership with the BAIS, with the support of NSBAC. We had the G20 tax brand, technology for the plant. So every year there is a G20 tax brand with the largest number of submissions. We had a huge adhesion, more than 60 solutions from Brazil, and amongst the awarded were in the finalists that went to, we had some awards from Brazil. So this strengthening has grown. And the central bank with FENASBAC was already doing that. We needed to work with data. Just to underline what you said, you talk about the agribusiness figures and how the environmental aspect is important. As this is a global agenda, it doesn't make much sense why we don't export the solution, since we have this knowledge embedded. So we are going to talk about the innovation side and export it. We don't need to consume the solutions from other places, and we can help other realities, Africa. So there are similar problems here of climate exposure. There are new markets that can appear.
And the lift data, before showing the data in DREX, just to tell you information that you can see more online. We have very interesting projects. Say Bilton with the token, which is a sustainable title that is related to the energy sector in Brazil. And another green token from TechBucket, which is a partner, and that is also sustainable. So many financial, sustainable, technological solutions. And in Lift Data, focused on the COP30, we have 4 types. The first one is directly connected to the objectives by COP. So emission reductions and transitions for a low carbon economy with less greenhouse gases emission. Another that is focused on funding for resilience, climate justice, and support for crisis. We saw in the Rio Grande do Sul how much tragedy and how affecting it was. And another one for biodiversity that was mentioned at the beginning. We have a lot of opportunities related to the size of our biomes, especially the Amazon biome, but all of our biomes, but also a challenge because when we need to mitigate the main variable for emissions, for control of high emissions, it's control for deforestation and how to preserve the forest and make this economically viable. These communities also need to continue to eat and the economy needs to keep moving. So we need an economic model that is consistent to all of this. And finally, we have a level that focus on rural credit. As mentioned, for Brazil, this is very significant. We received 115. We had a demand That was surprising. 115 projects that were interested and had some idea and proposal to do. 65 managed to go all the way to the end with their proposal. And we have a kind of surprising number. We have 20 selected accelerated projects within those transactional categories. So we have 5 projects in each, so with different names. Radar ESG Climático 013, S-Green, Portal Floresta, and many others that you can be seen on the screen. And we have a number of projects, all focused on different aspects, and they are Brazilian and international projects with very interesting representative by Brazil. Out of the 15, of the 20, quite a few are Brazilian, and at the end of July, we will present the results, and this is going to be evaluated to understand where the best outstanding projects, and those will be awarded in the 3F, an event by FENASBAC with the central bank, will happen in Brasilia in October. 7 and 8 of October in the central bank head office. It's not the first edition, and we'll be able to talk about about the projects, and they should be present in Lift Day. We had a Lift Day this year. You can find it online if you want to see it on YouTube. We talk to the people with the projects in 2024 in Lift, and these projects will be present in the next Lift Day next year. And all the details are published in the Lift paper, and this makes sure that we have transparency and that this knowledge can be used for others and understanding the agenda and building an evolution and a scale, and we can contribute one to the next and so on. And to finalize, because we're over our time, what is the path towards COP? COP 30 is the 30th COP that we have, and COP was born in Brazil. In ECO 92, I was 10 years old. Danny probably wasn't even born. I was already the first flower in a dance festival, and people were already agreeing in Blumenau back then. And 92, that's where they created the convention for the UN. They established in 95, the first COP would happen in Germany. This is very significant for the world. It's also in ECO 92 that the financial arm for UN was born. And this is there has a lot of expectation. This COP came after Azerbaijan, Emirates, and it's happening in a place where we have the Amazon, a COP where COP was born. So the responsibility is massive, and that's what we want to make clear. To us, and as we see, and all of you here, is that our hook is that technological innovation for sustainability is possible, and it's scalable, and that's the way to go. And we leave the invitation, because probably there's a lot of people that aren't aware of this ecosystem, to be part of it with us. And if you have a sustainable project or not, or technological project, this is a very nice environment where you can collaborate with others. Thank you everyone.